Hello everyone, welcome back. I want to talk to you tonight about the clairs. The clairs are the 5 ways that we connect to spirit, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about one clair tonight, and then for the next 4 nights, I will talk about each clair in a little more detail so you have a better understanding. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I really encourage people who are in grief, who, I'm not happy with people going from medium to medium to medium to medium. And when someone comes to me and they ask if they can come back in a week or a month, I always tell them no, because just like we evolve on this side of the veil, our loved ones evolve as well on the other side of the veil. So I always encourage them to wait a year before they come back, okay? But I know when you're in deep grief and you want so desperately to hear from your loved one, you go from medium to medium to medium, or sometimes psychic to psychic, and you all know how I feel about psychic. It's not, psychics, they're not credible, okay? Most of them. 92 to 93% of them are not credible. So the reason why I'm talking about the clairs is because I want to make you all aware of how we connect to spirit. And hopefully, through going to classes or workshops or, listening to these videos or getting some books that I recommend, or teachers also, besides myself, that I would recommend who could help you. I would hope that you could help raise your own vibration and be able to connect with your loved one yourself, okay? So tonight and 4 nights following, I'm going to go into a little more detail about the clairs, and I'm going to try to answer a question or two after each one. I'm getting a lot of questions, and I'm grateful, so thank you for emailing me, and I'll try very hard to get to as many as I can. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about clairvoyance. Now there's 5 clairs. Clairvoyance is the ability to see. Clairaudient, hear. Clairsentient is the feeling. Claircognizant is the all-knowing. And clairgusance is taste and smell. So tonight we'll do clairvoyance, which is the seeing. Now, usually if you're a clairvoyant, I am a clairvoyant and clairaudient. I see and I hear. Now I see with my inner eye, but very often I'll see with my own eyes. And I saw with my own eyes all the time when I was younger, and that's why it was so confusing. And I used to talk to the priests and nuns in Catholic school, and they said, oh no, you can't do that, even though they were teaching me to, teaching the students to listen for the voice of God and communicate with the angels and saints. And then when you did, and you told them, they said it wasn't good. So it was very confusing to me. Okay, so I used to see all the time with my own eyes, but now I see more with my inner eye than I do my own eyes. But I do, especially at galleries, see with my own eyes. That's when energies really, really pull in for me. Okay, so clairvoyance means that you have the ability to see. Okay, now many people think if you can see, it's like you believe what you see on television, like some of the shows out there where the medium will sit there and a spirit will come in and they see them just like we're looking at each other right now on this video. And in fact, it doesn't happen like that, okay? That's Hollywood. They also don't show us the blood and the gore. They don't show us things like that. They also will never bring in negative information, never. So none of that is credible. But we do see. But there's a veil between worlds. There is a veil between worlds. So nobody has ever had the ability or ever will have the ability to communicate with spirit like we can communicate with each other. And as I've said before, I tell my students, if the day comes that you're able to have a really good 2-way conversation with spirit, check your pulse, because chances are you're over there. Because of the veil between worlds, we have to form our own language with spirit. And I'm going to talk about this own language with spirit at a later airing. Okay, but that's basically what we have to do. So we have to first and foremost find out what our gifts and abilities are. Okay, so that's why classes like this are really important. Now I do a meetup every Thursday night here, and I've been running this for about 13 years now up here in Pennsylvania. We've been here 14 years, and I started this class about a year after we moved here. And what I do is I have people come here and I start with a meditation, and then I always do some exercise or activity which helps them see and me see exactly what gifts they have from God. And the 5 clairs, they're gifts from God, okay? And some are stronger than others. So it's nice to find out what your real gifts are so that you can feed them. You can learn to embrace them, and you can strengthen them through proper exercises, okay? So for clairvoyants that come to me, people will come here and they say, well, I never see. I never see. And I'll say, okay, well, we're going to do an exercise, and I'll have maybe 20 people here, and I'll break them up into twos, and I'll say, okay, I want you to bring in 3 pieces of information connected with the person who sits in front of you, and I'll give them a minute or two to bring specific information in. And then when the exercise is over, they'll share with each other, and then we usually have a large group discussion. Very often we do. And I'll say, okay, how was that for you? And the person who says, I never see, will say, well, I saw a 3 and a 5. And I'll say, what do you mean you saw it? Well, I saw a 3 and a 5. And I'll say, well, I thought you never saw. And they'll say, oh, okay, so let's go to 3 and 5. You saw a 3 and 5 connected with the person who you're sitting across from, the person who I asked you to do a reading on. You say, yes, that's right. Okay, so number 3, they showed you, Spirit showed you a 3. And I'll say to the person who this person just read, do you understand 3? Do you understand the month of March? Yes, that's my birthday. Okay, and 5, that's the month of May. Do you understand May? Yes, that's when my son died, was May. So those were 2 very evidential pieces of information, and this person saw them. Okay, so some people don't even realize that they're seeing, and I'll say to people, close your eyes for a minute, and when you close your eyes, and you can all do this right now, close your eyes for a minute, and if I say to you, can you picture your front door? So just close your eyes for a second, all of you who are watching this video. Now I want you in your mind to picture your front door. Okay, now open your eyes. Now if you were able to picture your front door, then you are clairvoyant. You have the ability to see. That's what it is. Okay, that's exactly what it is. You're seeing, you have the ability to see, you have clairvoyance. And people misinterpret this beautiful gift. They don't understand what this is. So you know, I like to encourage people to read about clairvoyance, understand it more, and you know, participate in some of these weekly meetups. I know they're cropping up all over the country, and you know, I am here in Effort, Pennsylvania. I do one Monday morning, and I do one Thursday night, and I'm very consistent with it. You know, I know a lot out there will say, well, I'll do it every other week, and then they'll skip the other week, and it'll be once a month, and then they'll skip that. You have to be consistent. The teacher needs to be consistent, and the student needs to be consistent, okay? Because you want to learn what your gifts are, and then once you learn what your gift is, then, you know, there are certain exercises which can help you strengthen them, okay? So there are little things you can do yourself with clairvoyance. You can just close your eyes like we just did, and just before you close your eyes, say, okay, I'm going to picture this and this and this. One exercise I know is you can close your eyes and you can picture a round white ball, just a round white ball, like a regular beach ball, okay? And then change that ball to the color green with your eyes closed, and see a green, then change it to blue, then change it to red, and go through the colors. And that is strengthening your clairvoyance. Okay, so the ability to see doesn't have to be with your own eyes. Now, when I do galleries, I see with my own eyes. But because I do large galleries, it's very helpful, and Spirit knows that. It's helpful for me to see. And I'm a very organized medium. So for me, mother's side is the left side of the body, and father's side is the right side of the body. So when I'm doing galleries, and if there's 100 people there, and spirit energies pull in, let's say, 5 spirit energies connected with each one there. So you're talking how many, you know, people are walking in from the world spirit. It really helps when they stand left side, mother side, right side, father side, you know, so I can say, oh, you have a mother, you have a father, and so on, you know, siblings, they all have their place to stand for me because I'm very organized. I'm very organized that way, okay? So that's what clairvoyance is. And again, I mentioned the book, Rose Van Den Enden's book, So You Want to Be a Medium. That I call that the Bible of mediumship. You'll never have a better book, a more informative book. It's an easy read. You know, it makes it very easy. She simplified it in a way that everyone could understand it. And it really is a fabulous book. So again, the name of that book is So You Want to Be a Medium. And I encourage anybody out there who wants to be a medium, or even if you don't want to be a medium, just to have a better understanding of how the world of spirit works and how we, you know, we coordinate with one another, so to speak. That's a great book, and I would encourage you to get that, okay? So right now, I just want to, I'm going to leave you with that tonight with clairvoyance, but I just want to address Polly from Pittsburgh. Polly Polly Mending from Pittsburgh asked me a question, and again, it relayed back to the last video that I did. I got it actually just a short time ago, and I want to make sure I remove all the fear connected with everything that you understand about the world of spirit. And she asked, is there a lot of fear? I talked in my last video about that we know when we're going to pass. We see it. And she said, are we afraid? And I apologize that I neglected to say all fear leaves us. Once we see the other side, as we prepare to pass into the next dimension, all fear leaves us. That's why people who fear death, once they get close to it, they see the other side. And that's another way that you can tell that your loved one is beginning to see when they're starting to pass, because all fear leaves them. They no longer fear it. My grandmother, there were two things she feared. She feared cancer and she feared death. And she was a very religious person, but she feared both very, very much. And a week before she passed, and she died of cancer, she died of pancreatic cancer, and a week before she died, all fear left. All fear left. And she began, telling me stories, and once in a while she would say, I'd walk in the room and she'd say, oh, my mother's here. And I knew my great-grandmother. I loved her very much, and she would say, oh, great-grandma's here. And she'll say, oh, I know you think it's the drugs, but she was really here. And I'd say, no, Grandma, I know it's not the drugs. I know that great-grandma is standing there with you, So all fear does leave. All fear does leave. And when I mention suicide, I also want to mention people come here whose children have committed suicide, and when they go to the psychics tell them that they're, because of taking their own life, that they're cursed now, and they can't have any peace on the other side because of what they did. And I'm here to tell you that when a person commits suicide, they're really not in their right frame of mind. They're really not in their right frame of mind. So although when we have our life review, and I will talk about that at a future airing, although when we have our life review, we will know and feel all the pain that we caused others through our actions and our words. We have to own that. We have to forgive ourselves for that. Suicide, no one is punished for suicide, because our God knows that we were not in a good place, that we were so desperate or so sad or so depressed that we felt that we had to do this, or an individual had to do that. Certainly is always forgiven, and never, never is punished on the other side. There is no punishment on the other side. Okay, our life review is pretty simple. And you have to be a pretty bad individual to have any kind of sadness on the other side. For those who lived a very difficult life, and maybe could have been a little nicer to people, but it's because we had our own sorrows and heartaches in our own life. Okay, when we have our life review, that will all be forgiven and removed. We will forgive ourselves. For those who really hurt people, people will say to me, well, does God love Saddam Hussein the same way he loves Mother Teresa? Well, yes, he does, because the soul is part of God. God is our father and our mother. But the physical body, that's a choice that we have. So the bad choices that we make in the life review, we will see that. And the words and actions that we said or did to hurt another, we will fully understand how that felt and how that was. And so it's self-forgiveness on the other side, but we'll get more into that on another airing, okay? So, but eventually we are all forgiven. We do forgive ourselves. There really doesn't seem to be judgment on the other side, even from God. We judge ourselves. We judge ourselves. And I also have been told that there are no fires of hell like we were taught in Catholic school. The fires of hell would be easier than fully comprehending and feeling what our words and actions did to hurt another. Okay, so you have to be a pretty bad person to really suffer in any way on the other side. And again, suffering is self-knowledge of what our words and actions did to hurt another. But certainly suicide is an all-forgiving, because they are not in a good place when they do that, and they are not being punished on the other side, and nothing can hold them back from the love of God. Okay, so I hope that clears that up, and no worries. Again, it's a beautiful place, and we're embraced by God and our loved ones, and all passings are peaceful. And we do know before we pass. Okay, so that's it for tonight. Have a beautiful night. Again, Christmas is only a few days away. This is a countdown for me, and I'm sure it is for many of you too. So I wish you a very pleasant good night, and as always, in God's love and light.